Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network. Welcome back to the show. We are honored to have our friend Susan Grothe joining us here again. And of course, she's the owner and artist of Lasting Impression, based out of Lake Emil, Minnesota. And she's helping so many people out there, really cancer survivors, anyone who's been scarred, helping these survivors reclaim their bodies. And, she's not just a tattoo artist, but though it's, one of her titles, she's here as a friend and as someone who is really experienced in her craft to help so many people, not only cancer survivors, but, those who are interested in cosmetic types of, shall we say, scar camouflage, or whether it be permanent type makeup. But I know you really specialize in helping so many people with areola restoration and so much more. So welcome to the show again today, Susan. Please introduce yourself to everyone once again.
Great to be back. Well, Susan with Lasting Impression in Lake Elmo, and just really excited to be here. I just think that this is just such an underserved segment of the service, cosmetic services out there. People just really don't know about it. So I'm just so happy to have the opportunity to talk about it.
Beautiful. And, she's doing both the medical tattoo services, cosmetic services as well. And really, I know I've gotten to know you on a personal basis the past few weeks on our shows, and you're just amazing. The stories, the people you're helping, and how it's making them feel and gain self-confidence and so much more. So let's just talk a little bit about what if art could heal? Let's share a little bit about what that means, and let's talk a little bit about some of the areas you do specialize in.
Yeah. I really have focused a lot in the last several years on scar camouflage and on areola tattoo. And really, there's so many people out there with scars. I mean, it's estimated 80% of the population has scars, and they can be really debilitating. If you have a scar, you look at it, you see it. Some people don't want others to see it, so they'll cover it up. If you've got scars on your arms, if you got scars on your legs, sometimes people don't wear short sleeves or they won't wear shorts. They're really self-conscious about these scars. And when they see them, it's often reminding them of the trauma behind the scar, how they got that scar, if it was an accident or a childhood journey. I've had people come to me with self-injury scars, and these are people in their 50s and 60s that, when they were young and teenagers, they had self-injury issues. And so they've got scars from that. And, now 30, 40 years later as an adult, they look back and they really are self-conscious of that and they want to cover that up. So with areola, it's really an opportunity to help people through that last healing part of the trauma. I think a lot of women who I've met who have gone through breast cancer, it's this whirlwind of doctors and surgeons, and all of these things are happening to your body, and they just don't really get the opportunity to process any of that. So emotionally, there's often a lot of challenges just trying to work through, all of what that entailed and kind of, resolve it. And I think what I feel the areola tattoo do is kind of bring a closure to that. You're seeing it physically as a change on your body, but mentally and emotionally, it helps you overcome a lot of what has transpired over the last several months, leading you to that decision to have areola tattoo. So it really has a lot of impact on people. That's really what, motivates me to do it.
Yeah. Like I mentioned in the intro, you're not just a tattoo artist. You are a friend. You're a confidant. You're helping these survivors reclaim their bodies. And, curious, Susan, how does that make you feel? I see it in your eyes. I know what your answer is going to be, but people that don't know you well enough, tell us how rewarding it is.
It's just an incredible feeling when people come back, usually on the follow-up appointment, and they'll share a story that shows that the work I've been able to do has helped them really transform their body image. And prior to having this done, they'll talk about feeling self-conscious and, not feeling comfortable, and they'll come back and really feel this renewed self of body confidence. it's an incredible feeling. It's very, very purposeful. I put a lot of focus, a lot of effort. I've spent a lot of time training and learning and perfecting what I do. And it's just such a joy to be able to do this and really help people with something that is such a personal impact on their life. So it's just great. I love doing it. I have a lot of passion for it.
And, I would love to get into the emotion that you bring out in people, because I could only imagine when they're working and getting work done, you don't see everything. And then once they're able to see that tattoo, that fix for the first time, what are some of these emotional reactions that you've witnessed?
Yeah. Sometimes it's like awe. They look in the mirror and they're like, wow, I can't believe how different this looks and how complete that it makes them feel. Sometimes there's crying. Sometimes they're crying. I'm crying. There can be a lot of crying. It's a very emotionally driven process. And so when you get to that end step where you're making their body feel whole again, it can really, really just bring out a lot of emotions. So I've seen a lot of different emotions. And that can even happen with cosmetic tattoo as well. When someone's really struggled with their appearance and they feel like their features have faded away. And, I'm this, I work with a lot of people in their 50s, 60s, 70s, even 80s. And when their features have faded away and they feel like they don't have that appearance that they had when they were younger and, more defined eyes, to be able to give them something when they look in the mirror that makes them feel youthful and more energetic and just a better kind of version of themselves, but it's still themselves. It's just a wonderful feeling.
Beautiful. And, you shared some client testimonials with us in the past. I want to hear more about, could you give us an example of someone who, tell us about some of the people, looking at the areola for the first time, right? Like what type of self-confidence did they gain right away?
Yeah. A couple of my clients, I worked in an environment where it was kind of a multi-studio area. So I had colleagues that knew I was working on this particular gal. She was part of this business group. And so they came up to me afterwards, a couple of weeks later, and said, you know what? She really just walks with her head up higher and her shoulders back. So this subtle thing of just her posture was more upright. I've had people tell me that they weren't even aware that they didn't feel comfortable with their loved one, a spouse of 30 or 40 years who's obviously seen them, many times before, but they didn't feel comfortable actually having, this close person in their life see what their body looked like after this surgery. So after the tattoo, they really had this much greater sense of body positivity so they could face a loved one and not feel self-conscious about what they looked like. It's almost like the trauma from the scar kind of recedes because the visual impact is drawing the eye to something that makes it look much more natural, much more whole. So just a lot of people have commented about the impact it's made on their self-confidence, especially as they look at themselves in the mirror. It doesn't even have to be with someone else, a loved one or a boyfriend or, whatever. They just feel more comfortable when they look in the mirror because their body feels like their own again.
Yeah, but still, I'm sure this is helping with their self-confidence when it does come to, intimacy and relationships, right? Because, we're all embarrassed about our bodies and our imperfections. And especially something like that, thankfully I haven't had any scars like that or anything myself. I have friends who've been in this situation. I got goosebumps for them. And even though the husband's like, you're beautiful, they didn't feel beautiful until they got, I get these goosebumps, fixed in a sense, touched up by someone like yourself. And what that has done for their self-confidence, for their sex life. I mean, yes, these things matter,
Yeah. Yes. And you're so right. I mean, as women, we a lot of our sexual identity is tied up in our appearance, and a lot of us will you look in the mirror and you see all of the flaws. You don't see what's beautiful about yourself. You see the things that you feel are wrong about yourself. So when you go through, and breasts have a big impact on a woman's sexual identity. It doesn't matter if they're big or small or saggy or less perky or whatever, but in your head, you're going to have these conversations that are going to really interfere with intimacy. I think that this is much more common and people don't talk about it. But I had a client say, this is really important to me. And I just don't feel comfortable with my husband, even though I know he loves me. And I know he tells me that I look beautiful, exactly what you said. In her mind, she didn't feel that. And getting over that, being able to get over that by looking in the mirror and seeing something different is really, really a positive step forward. And it can kind of, free you into those intimacy situations that, were barriers before. So I think that that's really a key component of why a lot of people do this. It's not, unless you, very few people are walking around topless. So, the general public is viewing them, but in their very, most intimate moments, they still have these, issues internally, kind of accepting what they see when they look in the mirror. So if this kind of procedure can help them look in the mirror and feel more comfortable and not see their body as damaged or having flaws, that really can go a long way towards helping them in their intimacy with their partners. So I've had people comment on that. Very personal conversations happen when you're, having these things done.
Yeah. And let me just ask, obviously it's hard to talk about this with anyone, let alone trust in you and gain your confidence to take off your clothes and show your imperfections. Yeah. But, are a lot of clients nervous, emotional? How do you make them feel so comfortable during this process?
Yeah. Yeah. And that most people come in and they are nervous. Usually what I do is just talk through, first of all, what are your goals? What are the things that, what are the expectations you have? So really kind of talking about what you're hoping to gain, what you don't like and what you would like to change, and then talking about what can and can't be changed. So really clearly setting expectations. And then I typically will walk through the process with people. So I'll talk about how we're going to look at, so I call it mapping. So we're going to look at measurement. We're going to adjust for size and position so we have as much symmetry as we can. Then I'm going to move on to the pigment selection. And that's usually a process where I'm custom making pigments to match and look good against a client's skin tone. So as I talk through the process with people, it usually helps them feel a lot more comfortable. But to your point, it's a hard thing to walk into somebody you've just met and literally bare yourself. I had a client come to me who had a breast reduction, and it didn't go well. She had multiple surgeries over a period of a couple of years, and the results were less than ideal. And she had never shown anyone what she looked like. She was embarrassed in front of her husband, and she'd been married for 30 or 40 years. So she, this wasn't someone, a boyfriend she, had a recent relationship with. This was someone who'd been in her life for a long time. And I was the first person to actually see what she looked like. And we talked through, okay, these are the things that I can change. I'm not a plastic surgeon, so I'm not going to be able to change some fundamental things of size and shape, but I can change how it overall looks. And that just was such, for her, this freeing thing, because she no longer looked in the mirror and saw scars and saw regret. I had this surgery and it didn't turn out well and I don't like how I look. She could look in the mirror and she's like, you know what? I don't look too bad. This looks good. This, I look much better than I did before I had this tattoo done. So it's a process of just kind of working and talking with people, making them feel comfortable and helping them through the process. And usually all of that nervousness will start to disappear.
Oh my goodness. Well, it's beautiful, the work you're doing, and also not just areola and breast, but tell me about some other scars on women's body that they're very insecure about. Could it be from like a tummy tuck? Could it be from a dog bite? What are some of the other things you're able to help, fix on our bodies that we may be insecure about?
Yeah, lot of different scars, all different things. I had a client come to me who had a really bad dog bite that disfigured her lip, and she had a scar that ran from the kind of the inside of her nose down to her lips. So we were able to really reconstruct the vermilion border of the lip and make the lip look more proportioned again, which really made the scar recede. So the scar was still there, but you couldn't see it as well because we really redid the vermilion border of the lip. I've worked on neck scars, from thyroidectomies and, different injuries, and that being a pretty visible area if you've got on a lower neckline, if you're not in a situation where you can always wear a turtleneck. I mean, this particular client was always wearing a high neck, even in really hot weather, because she was very self-conscious about that scar. So we were able to make that scar blend in so you couldn't see it as well. Tummy tucks, abdominal surgeries, very common. A lot of women are having arm lifts, leg lifts. There's a lot of different scars, especially surgical scars that can be successfully camouflaged. So they blend in better and kind of just recede into the background. So they're much less noticeable. And that sometimes is all it takes just to make people feel a lot more confident about wearing short sleeves again, or wearing a lower neckline, or wearing shorts or a skirt, if they had scars in areas that, were more visible. So there's a lot of different scars. Surgical scars are really a good option for camouflage because they often heal relatively flat and white over time, and that's just an ideal scar to camouflage.
You're also working with some that may be raised and, or like, what's the word I'm looking for? Not healing so good.
Keloid. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, you know the correct terminology. I don't. I'm like raised.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, also, I know, this is, sometimes people's final step in a healing journey. And I can only imagine, are you still in touch with a lot of people? Do they come back for revisions? And I'm sure they always recommend you to people, right?
Yeah, they often don't come back for revisions because this is relatively permanent. So we do this in 2 sessions. They'll come for the first session. I do the majority of the work. The second session is about 5 to 8 weeks later. And that's where I'm going to do the touch up, add some real detail to help the 3D realism pop. But after that, there's usually not a lot of need to come back. And this is more like body art that is going to be considered relatively permanent. But when you think about mastectomy, about 75% of them involve removal and loss of the nipple in the areola. And, as women are going through this process, if they're told that could happen, they, don't think it's a big deal until that's gone. And if they've gone through the reconstructive surgery and then they have, breast reconstruction done, and they've got what many have described to me as just blobs. I have these blobs of skin now. They don't really look like breasts. So being able to put that image back onto the breast that is really hyper realistic. It's a real, makes it look like a protruding nipple on a flat and often scarred surface, really kind of helps them with that final step. So if you consider breast cancer, it's just this journey, marked by fear and loss. Parts of your body are being removed, and you go through this really quickly from an oncologist to a surgeon. You don't have a lot of time to process a lot of that emotionally, mentally, as you're going through the process. So when they come to me, that final step is really kind of closure and healing from that process.
Well, thank you for sharing that. And
Yeah.
also, Susan Grothe joining us here. If you are just tuning in, we are talking about her medical and cosmetic tattoos that she does. And she just really is someone who's just super empathetic and trustworthy and helping a lot of survivors out there and those that are, upset with the scars on their body. How has this changed you both personally and professionally, Susan?
Oh my gosh. It really has given me a great deal of empathy for people who are traumatized by a scar. And, I haven't gone through breast cancer personally, but I have gone through it, I guess, through many of my clients. And it's given me so much empathy for them and how challenging it is, not only physically, but emotionally and mentally. I think a lot of that is glossed over because there aren't actually a lot of resources for people to kind of manage the emotional process that comes with that whole experience. So it's really made me an advocate for this service. It's not
Yeah.
one that is
Mm-hmm.
widely talked about or known about. I kind of exist a little bit outside the medical system. And that it just makes me really want to gain more visibility for this and share the opportunity that it exists so more women are aware of it. I think many of the people who've come to me have said, boy, I didn't even know this option was available. I wish I had known it was available, when I went through that process. So I'm just trying to bring as much visibility as I can to it so women are aware of it. And if they choose to take that step, they know it's out there and they know it's available.
Well, thank you for sharing that. And also, what what should survivors really look for when choosing an artist for this procedure, no matter where they are in the world, right?
Yeah, yeah. I'd say the first thing you want to make sure you're in a really good, clean environment. You need to know that the person that you're working with is licensed. There should be privacy to do the procedure. So some of the basic things, I would say you also really need to kind of delve into, does the person you're working with have experience? And it's absolutely an option to ask about that. You should ask about that. What kind of experience you have, what kind of a training you have. A lot of people will take a few YouTube courses and, mess around on fake latex skin and say, oh, I'm an areola artist. It really is a lot more challenging than that. I've spent years training. I've taken multiple courses. I've done a comprehensive mentorship with one of the most reputable medical tattoo facilities on the East Coast. So I've really spent a lot of time and invested a lot in training. So I have a lot of skill and expertise to do this. And it's really, good to be able to ask about that. And then you should actually ask to see examples of the work. Anyone who's good at this should have great before and after photos to share and being able to show you so you know that they've got experience. So those are the things that I would probably look for.
Thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah.
And also, let me just ask, this obviously is near and dear to your heart, and you have a lot of expertise. And I just love the fact that you are so compassionate, about what you're doing, and you truly love this. And,
Yeah.
what's one thing you'd say to someone out there listening who's feeling insecure today about something on their body?
I would say if this is an opportunity, if you think that cosmetic tattoo or medical tattoo, scar camouflage,
Yeah.
areola might be something you're interested in, I would encourage you to explore it. Look in your area, do some internet research, see if there are people who do this. I certainly would be a resource for anyone if they contacted me, regardless of where they live. Even if they weren't in a position to travel to Minneapolis to see me, I certainly could help them with questions. All they need to do is just reach out and call. I just feel so strongly about helping people understand that this is out there and it's available and could possibly make a really big difference in their body image and their confidence.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for helping so
Yeah.
many people heal like this. We appreciate your time, Susan. At this time, tell us how we can contact you, please.
Sure. My phone number, 952-207-4899. And you can also reach me via my website. That is lastingimpressionpmu.com. And I'm at Susan at lastingimpressionpmu.com. So beautiful. Multiple ways to reach out.
Great. Thank you so much for your time, for being here. Always a great time speaking with you. And thank you for what you do. Yeah. And looking beautiful as always. If you can't see her on the Zoomcast, she's gorgeous. And you are. Thank you. And don't forget, she also does cosmetic tattooing as well, which I know we've talked about in the past. But of course, that's a whole nother option that she offers. And she's an experienced artist with that, right? From brows to lips to what other areas?
Eyeliner, brows, and lips are primarily the cosmetic tattoo services that I offer.
Great. Thank you so much, Susan. Have a great day. Thank you.
Yep.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
What if art could heal? For breast cancer survivors, areola tattoos are more than ink. They're a symbol of strength and wholeness. At Lasting Impression, we specialize in areola restoration and scar camouflage. Our work has helped many survivors because healing is more than physical, it's emotional. It's the final step in a healing journey, bringing symmetry, beauty, and confidence back to your life. You fought the battle, and now it's time to celebrate your victory with art that heals and confidence that lasts. Call us at 952-207-4899 to schedule your free consultation. Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Hi, this is Terry Crews, actor, former football player, game show host, father of 5, and all-around big dude. I'm also an expert on drama. I know all kinds of drama. There's the good kind that comes with having a house full of kids. There's the bad kind like season-ending injuries. There's the necessary kind like having an agent in Hollywood. And there's silly drama, like the drama around my percolating pectorals. And then there's the drama you can skip.
Skip the drama that comes with not having your high school diploma or equivalency. Find free adult education classes near you and finish your high school diploma. Visit finishyourdiploma.org.
Or text diploma to 97779. Message and data rates may apply. Reply STOP to opt out. That's diploma to 97779. And leave the drama to actors like me.
Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.